The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has resolved to deploy troops to Niger to restore constitutional order in the country. The regional bloc has therefore directed its Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff to activate its standby force and deploy it to Niger. The West African leaders reached the resolution on Thursday after an extraordinary summit in Abuja. Viewers, this is Daily Politics and I'm your host, Hamza Idris. Now continuing with the discussion, as the regional bloc ECOWAS reaches these decisions, there has been bickers and outright disapproval from voices in the north over any attempt to use military intervention. However, Kende Amodu is with us in the studio. He is the State House correspondent for Trust TV and will be giving us more details of what happened during the second extraordinary summit on socio-political situation in Niger Republic, which held at the presidential villa in Abuja. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All through the day, you've been in the villa. How was the ambience?
Well, there's the ECOWAS leaders seemed determined to reach a resolution that will show a strong stance against the junta in Niger. That's because the Nigerian military authorities, if we can call them that.
Exactly. Even though they have their name, they call themselves National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland.
Of the home.
Yeah.
Well.
Yes.
They have rebuffed all peaceful attempts.
All entreaties. Yeah.
All entreaties, and so. The West African leaders also decided to show a strong stance.
A kind of show of force.
It's a show of force.
This is reminiscent to what happened in Gambia.
Yes.
You know, when there was, issues around, they agreed to now, extend the force. And
Yes.
before you know, is a cantankerous or recalcitrant leader now, he backed out, right?
And went into exile. Yes. So I think the point there is that the West African leaders are also saying that peace is not ruled out. So there's still room for negotiations. There's still room for dialogue. For instance, yesterday evening, President Tinubu met with the Ulama Council.
Exactly.
And gave them the go-ahead.
He also met with 14th Emir of Kano.
Yes.
Sanusi.
And he gave them the go-ahead to go and find a peaceful resolution in this thing. So I think that the deployment of troops, as they have agreed today, is the last resort if all other measures fail.
My concern is that there is a clear departure from the introductory or welcome address by President Tinubu, because if you go through the speech, he didn't mention force at all, but he emphasized negotiation, diplomatic ways to resolve this problem. But later in the evening, when the communique came out, we now saw the resolve by the regional bloc to now deploy troops to restore democracy in Niger. Don't you think Tinubu is actually in a tight corner?
You have to understand the position he's in. There are voices from across the northern part of the country that say, these people are our brothers, we will not...
ACF, you can see the Ulama, quite a number of groups.
We do not advise that war be taken to Niger. But you also have to understand that President Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. Today there are 8 other presidents, plus 2 presidents from West Africa, then 2 other presidents from one from Burundi, who were observers.
Exactly.
Which clearly shows that this is not his decision alone to take.
Yes.
So while if you recall, some days ago, his special advisor on media and publicity had actually tried to change the narrative.
Yes.
To say that, look, this is not a decision that is taken by President Tinubu alone, that all West African leaders are taking this decision.
Yeah,
it just
collective decision.
It's a collective decision. It just happens to be the chairman, and therefore, since it's an authority, the chairman is the spokesperson.
But you see, what people believe in diplomacy, you know, we say America is the police of the world, right?
Yeah.
So even UN, sometimes you see their resolutions and all that without the approval of the United States nocturnally, you know. They rarely agree on some of those things. Yes. Do you think Tinubu has played his card very well for them to arrive at where we are now?
You know, before we get to the point of a communique, let's also remember that there are closed-door sessions.
Exactly.
There are briefings. Today, they were briefed by the different
groups,
delegations,
including the envoys sent to as far as Algeria, right? And Kenya and Libya.
Libya.
Yes.
So there's been a briefing. There is also this shuttle, this diplomatic shuttle. It also goes beyond Africa. They would have sent an envoy, even if it is under the cloak of the night, to France, to US, to UK, to find out what their mindset is before they take a decision like this. I keep on saying that ECOWAS would not take a decision and not preclude force if they don't have the backing of all these international organizations.
Yeah, certainly, you know, France, US, they have all shown their commitment to support restoration by whatever means in Niger Republic. But now, what is your thought about humanitarian crisis that is actually knocking at Nigeria's doors, from Sokoto to Katsina, you know, Kebbi to Yobe, you know, you have Jigawa, you have about almost 6 or 7 states, apart from contiguous states that will also be affected.
And remember, states that don't have really strong borders, which people will cross over.
Yes.
Very easily.
I don't think if any of these states has any strong border, because by the time you say there is war, there is no way you will stop people from...
They're already crossing over. They're already with us here in all the border towns. Some of them have families in Nigeria and in Niger.
Yeah.
So, you know, the humanitarian crisis, that is why a lot of the persons in the north have warned that if you go to war, or if West Africa goes to war with Niger, if it is not speedily resolved, the humanitarian implications will not be nice for Nigeria.
All right. Yes, we have your package from the villa, and we would like to play it for our viewers to see.
All diplomatic efforts made by the regional bloc to resolve the crisis in Niger have been defiantly repelled by the military leadership in the country. To compound issues, the junta has ignored the ultimatum given to it to restore constitutional order in Niger and has gone ahead to form a new government. Obviously angered by the recalcitrance of the Niger junta, West African leaders have resolved to uphold all measures and principles agreed upon by the extraordinary summit held on the 30th of July 2023.
Direct the President of the Commission to monitor the implementation of the sanctions. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately.
And you will see from the communique of this extraordinary summit that no option is taken off the table, including the use of force.
But the ECOWAS authority is keeping all options on the table for the peaceful resolution of the crisis.
And we still look to engage the party involved, including the COUP leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested and reinstate President Bazoum It is our duty to exhaust all avenues of engagement to ensure a swift return to constitutional governance in Niger.
In maintaining its stance, ECOWAS leaders are aware of the underlying international interests by different players and are asking the African Union to endorse all its decisions. They're also calling for the support of all partner countries and the United Nations in efforts to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in Niger.
That's it from the horse's mouth, Kendi. But, before we came to the studio, your colleague who covers the villa for us, for the newspaper, he said the statement issued by the special advisor on media to the president excludes some of these strong words, deployment of use of force and all that. Why? Of course, we got the first aspect from the transcript of what transpired at the hall, to the hearing of the world, to the hearing of everyone. But the statement they issued, this issue of, using force was removed and all that. So where are we?
It's an attempt to play a careful middle line.
Okay.
So as not to look as if Nigeria is the country that is pushing for it. Interestingly, the president of Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, had insisted that if the military junta in Niger do not agree to go, they will be pushed out. So it's not only a Nigerian decision.
Yeah.
It is a decision by West African leaders, and you need to understand them. You understand that we've had 3 other countries in which there have been military.
Well, you have Mali, you have Guinea, Burkina Faso. Yes.
And the pace of returning to constitutional rule in these countries are either delayed, is slow. And at that first summit in which President Tinubu was made chairman of ECOWAS, the concerns were raised about the slow pace of return to democratic rule, to the extent that there is a troika that will go to those countries and negotiate with those countries to quicken the return to constitutional order.
Yes.
Then we had the Niger, barely a month after.
Yes.
We had that Niger coup.
Exactly.
So a democratically elected president will feel endangered.
Yes.
That this trend should not spread across.
Exactly.
And
it's contagious.
Yes, it's contagious.
And it is at our backyard, especially in Nigeria.
Yes. So that is why there's that careful middle line. First, not to show that Nigeria is the one driving
the process,
but also to maintain that momentum that will see constitutional rule return to Niger.
Okay, yeah. Now, finally, the financial implication. Nigeria normally shoulders things like this.
Yes.
How careful should President Tinubu should be, not to actually take Nigeria to another, stage where we have to borrow to prosecute what analysts believe that will guzzle over 3 trillion naira, because in the event this war starts, Mali, Burkina Faso, the junta that they all said they are going to support, and Russia also, they will support Niger. Meaning it's not actually an ECOWAS thing or a Nigerian thing.
It will be a proxy war between interplay of international forces.
All right.
So if Nigeria or ECOWAS is going in to maintain peace in Niger and enforce a return to constitutional order, it must have the buy-in.
Yeah.
So that it is not Nigeria that will pick up the bill.
Yeah.
It must have the buy-in of countries like France, countries like the US, countries like the UK, who will not only send military equipment, but will also send funds to back up the force. Because once the force goes in, even if it is an ECOWAS intervention force, it will need funds to operate. And it is not just one country that will fund it. There must be a buy-in from all the countries of ECOWAS, first and foremost, and then a buy-in from the international forces. Don't forget, what are all the international forces or players looking at?
Yeah.
They're looking at the uranium.
Exactly there. So what is your final prayer now for this issue?
Well, the fact is diplomacy will still continue.
All right, and we pray that it solves the problem.
We do.
Let's not have boots on ground.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Kendi Amadu, for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And viewers, we'll go on a short break. When we return, the conversation continues. Don't go away.
How do they come to Nigeria? They have to come through Niger Republic.
Welcome to News Hour on Trust TV.
The Coalition of Northern Group, CNG, has
Petition followed consultations and meetings.
Hello and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I am
Where do they get what? How do they survive?
Kidnapping is just an extension of catch rustling.
Welcome back. If you are just joining, you are watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow us across all our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. And as you and I continue to cope with the current situation occasioned by the removal of the fuel subsidy, many have suggested a variety of suggestions which they feel will help Nigerians cope with this situation better. Suggestions or prescriptions like fixing the multiple refineries as a means to drive the price of petrol have on many occasions been mentioned. So tonight on the program, I have with me in the studio Dr. Mubarak Ibrahim Mahmoud. He's a maritime, port, oil and gas exploration expert with years of experience in the Gulf of Guinea, both in the public and private sectors. He's also the convener of the Conference on Supply Chain of National Competitiveness. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
We're happy having you in our studio.
Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. You saw the first part of our program, and I actually saw you not really happy while coming to the studio on the preparedness of Nigeria, ECOWAS countries, with the support of the superpowers. Is it to invade Niger or to go and restore constitutional order? What is your take on that, just briefly?
Thank you very much, Alhaji Hamza, for having me, and good evening to viewers. Good evening, Nigerians. Quite all right. I think your question is quite a very big one.
Yeah.
Today, I think the essence of living is to genuinely have peace globally. And I think we have all believed that, forceful application of force to grab power is no longer the fashionable approach.
So invariably, you are talking about peace.
peace, essentially, whether from the side of the coupists, who perhaps have decided to unilaterally on their own go after, taking power unlawfully, unconstitutionally, because we all believed that Niger Republic is a sovereign state that is governed under a, I think, presidential democracy as well. So, and they do have a constitution that guides their, internal matters and internal affairs. So, should there be any, perhaps, thing the president had done, they should equally, rely on their constituted authorities that are constitutionally empowered to possibly checkmate some of the actions.
And the structures are there.
Exactly. So perhaps then we come to see suddenly just that we had that the president of Niger have been, toppled, and a military junta eventually present itself. So I think peace is critical, and from the perspective of ECOWAS, I think the only takeaway from ECOWAS body language and standpoint is that such an act will not be acceptable and will not be tolerated. But however, I think essentially we need to come to understand that coercive power, is required when you want to reverse an unlawful act. But again, you need to put the card of diplomacy, on the table. And there are so many cards that
can be deployed,
available to ECOWAS to find a way, just like the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have rightly said that they are putting out and will make sure that all diplomatic avenues are adequately exhausted. So, however, I still strongly believe that convincing the military junta in Niger Republic is quite critical, and Nigeria, because our own commander-in-chief is playing two roles here. You see, as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there is that obligation to secure the territorial borders
of this country,
joins us with this country that is facing this unstable political situation. Should there be an eruption, and a crack in the social order, because as far as we understand, from a sociological standpoint, Niger Republic is not a country at equilibrium.
So now maybe I will now move into our subject of discussion today. We share the border. Niger, they also have their oil. Nigeria has its own, even though the bone of contention, what people are really putting around Niger is uranium. In what way should this economic imbalance of sorts will have adverse effect on Nigeria?
Okay, this can come from different perspective. Issue of economy and relying on your primary sector of your economy is no longer fashionable. It is only in Africa today that countries are being measured based on the primary sector of their economy.
Elsewhere it's not the same.
You see, the global benchmark currently used in measuring, the economic viability of countries have grown beyond the primary sector of their economy. Raw material is usually the primary sector of an economy. Manufacturing is actually the secondary sector of an economy. Then the tertiary sector of an economy is its service industry. Then the quaternary sector, which is where the global economy are playing today.
Okay.
Is the knowledge sector. So when we come to look at it, we have 4 different layers here. The primary sector, the secondary sector,
the tertiary
sector, and the quaternary sector. So where is Niger Republic in its primary sector? Does even Niger Republic have the know-how to even extract its primary sector? Does the Niger Republic have the know-how to utilize its primary sector? Should we decide to hinge our entire focus on uranium? Does the Niger Republic have the capability to translate what its uranium can give to it into wealth? So I think you can even come to agree with me that we've not even started yet.
Yeah, we have a very long way to go.
For Niger Republic. So now, when you now come into the secondary sector of Niger Republic, which is the manufacturing, where are they?
So invariably, Nigeria has a big role to play in solving these problems. So let's now face ours. Of course, your area is maritime, port, oil and gas. Let's start with oil. And you've been in the, Guinea, right, for a very long time. We are Gulf of Guinea. Why is it that Nigeria cannot get it right in protecting its waters? Because that is where a large chunk of our oil is being, that channel is where they used to steal our oil and all that.
Okay, thank you very much again, Alhaji Hamza. I think everybody in the world today knows that Nigeria is the oil country of Africa. And
even though Angola, they are now lifting more than us because we are unable to address our problem.
Notwithstanding, that does not in any way still equate Angola to what Nigeria has accomplished in the oil and gas industry. The oil majors, I think the investment in assets they've had in Nigeria far surpasses what they have in Angola today.
All right.
But you see, if Angola is able to remove an extra amount of crude oil for export to international markets, perhaps maybe means that their internal workings are at equilibrium. So now, what is making Nigeria's own industry not to be at equilibrium to that level that instead of it producing more than what it used to, but rather declining? The reasons are out there for everybody to...
Okay, please, let's know them. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now, number one, I would like us to go through a very simple and short journey.
Yeah.
We started in 1955, onshore. By 1985, 1995, gradually investment into the offshore sector of the oil and gas had happened. So gradually the IOCs moved most of their exploratory operations from the onshore into the offshore deep water.
Okay.
So there are reasons that motivated some of this: optimization of production of this crude oil, security of operations. It's a major criteria that informed the decision to go deep into the Gulf.
Okay.
Very good. The Delta Gulf.
Yes.
So now, but again, you see, when there have been a lot of infractions.
Yes.
Running away from the trouble will not solve the trouble. But we have to sit down and face the trouble, even if the trouble is a lion, and let's kill the lion before we now move away to the next stage. So, and I think that paints the entire story of what happened in the Niger Delta. And that was why we later came to see the agitation in the Niger Delta. We later came to see a lot of environmental issues.
Yes.
That Nigeria had to go out to the international, arena to seek for, support in order to deal with some of these environmental infractions.
Yes.
But you see, I always look at problems from from an outcome-based perspective.
Okay.
We're looking at solution here. We shouldn't quite all right focus on blaming or trading blames.
Yeah.
No, we need to focus on solution. Most of these assets,
yes,
because part of the sources of environmental abuse is the crude oil theft.
Yeah,
this theft is done through abusing the infrastructure, the assets that had been in place for over 3 decades or 4 decades.
Yes.
So what were the strategic decommissioning master plan that this whole, operators have provided the government of Nigeria with?
Yeah.
Should those assets attain their utilization threshold, right?
Yeah.
What will happen to the restoration of the environment?
Yeah.
Where those operations have taken place.
Yeah.
So this was not in place significantly. So again, by that, you see, most of the communities,
yes,
or the groups that are perpetrating this anti-economic act, you see, already have it at their disposal. Right?
Yeah.
Because those assets, some of them are supposed to have been decommissioned.
Yeah. Oh, and they have not.
And they have not been decommissioned. You see, by decommissioning, it also provides for a great deal of strategic re-engineering of the architecture of those facilities.
Now, my next question is, why is it difficult for government to address some of these infractions? Especially, not quite long, we saw, huge ship, they set it ablaze. A few days ago, we saw another one. Yeah. Why is it difficult for government, for our security operatives? We have NIMASA, right? They also have their, maritime police or whatever they call. Then we have the Navy. Why is stealing persisting? You've been in the Gulf of Guinea for a long time.
Yeah, basically, there are serious economic implications to carrying out the decommissioning exercise.
Okay.
It's a huge economics that averagely, not every company wants to go into the discussion.
Is it because it has not vested interest or what?
No. It's because it has not been in place as part of the contractual agreement.
Okay.
For most of these operations. So should you want to bring it in now, it's as if you are trying to smuggle in, something that have a great deal of economic sensitivity for most of these.
But contractual agreements, Doctor, operators are not cast in stone. If something does not suit you, you have the right to pull out of an agreement and then go into another. We are talking about economic sabotage. That Nigeria, we can't even fill our quota, right?
Yes.
In exploration. So, as an expert in this area, what is the way out? Because
that is why we have governments.
Okay.
That is why we have regimes. And that is the beauty of democracy.
Yeah.
That is why we say no to military invasions.
Yeah.
Because democracy brings one administration, and after its tenure elapses, another one comes.
So what do you think, Tinubu, if other administrations since the 70s, because we know that these infractions had been there for a very long time. We grew up, we read about the crisis in the Niger Delta. we saw the intervention by late President Yar'Adua. He took amnesty there, but it's like things are now going back gradually to
no, we are not going to get to that position, because the current president we have is a sensitive president to issues. But however, I want to say something here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You see, if the other administrations were perhaps unable to fix some of these issues for limitations that are left known to the government, then it gives another administration
another
opportunity to decide to say, yes, we want to look into this matter. How can we get the multinationals, the LOCs and the IOCs, the local oil companies and the international oil companies? Because if you look at the new governance structure of the oil and gas industry, it has given a very key role to local oil companies as well, indigenous operators, whom have been found capable of also participating in the space. So what we are now saying is that the government can decide to say, yes, today we are ready to see how we can reinvigorate, change some of these policies so that it will be there for everybody to follow. However, you asked a question about why is it that we have the Maritime Administration, we have other key, strategic national security and national economic agencies of the Nigerian government, in place, and we're still having these infractions. You see, it's a whole gamut of solutions.
Are they working in cohorts, maybe? Because if everyone is working independently, meaning they should be able to checkmate one another in such a way that it will be very difficult for all these infractions to
They are not necessarily working in cahoots, but this is what is going on. I like to see things from the perspective of solution-driven
go ahead.
Conversation. This is what I feel is going on. And just like I have said in my introductory statement, you see, global economies have moved away from relying on their primary sector of economy. We've discussed the secondary sector here. We've discussed the tertiary sector here. We've discussed the quaternary sector here. So now, that's the knowledge, technology, knowledge.
So you are now saying that
there is a gap.
There is knowledge gap here in Nigeria.
There is massive technological gap. Because, you see, the major infrastructures required to secure the territorial waters, the exclusive economic area of a nation, especially of the Nigerian owns, maritime domain, it's huge. And there is a great deal of requirement for integration.
But why is it difficult? Because I saw a video. I saw a video of how Saudi Arabia is actually monitoring every drop of, crude. Brought out from the underground. They monitor it. Even from the comfort of a room. And I was privileged also to see something different in Saudi Arabia outside the oil sector, Yes, I was there as a guest, and it was marvel, because like around the haram, they see every single person. When you touch somebody's shoe, before you know it, they will get you. So the way they got that correctly, that is what they are also doing to their oil
industry.
Why is it difficult for Nigeria to also have similar investment in the oil sector?
Because of gap. You see, we must begin to deploy the quaternary sector of our economy.
Which is actually the technology you are talking about, knowledge.
In order to deal with problems related to the tertiary sector of our economy. We need to deploy the quaternary sector of our economy in order to deal with problems around the secondary sector of our economy.
Okay.
I used to recall that history have it clearly that during the colonial era, the river Niger, the arteries of river Niger that connects to Yauri, right?
Yeah.
Are normally used to move agro commodities through the Kainji Dam of river Niger, right?
Yeah.
Then it comes over to areas like Jeba, where they have the colonial rail infrastructure.
Yes.
These commodities would be transferred on the train and is heading straight to our seaport of Lagos.
Yeah, the Atlantic Ocean.
The colonial administration used this to feed their own
economy. Yeah.
So you can now see that there is the requirement.
There's a disconnect.
There is a disconnection, there is a gap, and there is a requirement for synergy and collaboration. The same synergy and collaboration that is required in dealing with the security gaps.
I see.
In the Gulf of Guinea.
Yeah.
In the areas where these oil explorations are happening. So essentially, you see, we require massive energy. And having the right people with the right competencies, with the right mindset
to drive the process,
to drive and deliver on where these individual industries should be and within a timeline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you would begin to see that the energy would have put into blaming, oh, is this agency, no, is that person, oh, is this. We don't really need that. But at times, for the purpose of policy making, policy implementation, policy legislation, and policy review.
Yes.
We need the history of how we've started.
For us to get it right.
What happened?
Now how do you think President Bola Tinubu will now have this synergy? If you look at the tax sector, for instance, we heard that they are planning to reduce, multiple taxes from over 50, to 10. The latest story we had, I think yesterday or thereabout, was even maybe revenue collection agencies. They are streamlining them to just allow federal inland revenue. They are going to remove NIMASA. They are going to remove customs. There are quite a number, many of them. Yes. They will now vest that responsibility with federal inland revenue service. Now, in the oil sector, that is your area of expertise. We have upstream, we have downstream, we have quite a number of,
even midstream also.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think the President Tinubu-led government will do so that Nigerians will now, for once, have this feeling that God has blessed us with oil and we are deriving benefit from it? Because the way people are buying it now, with the removal of subsidy in US, in UK, that is how Nigerians are buying it. And they don't even have the purchasing power to buy it. What should President Tinubu do? Okay,
I'll approach this in two perspectives.
Okay, quickly, yeah.
In the perspective of the purchasing power, and also in the perspective of the moving all the revenue collection to FIRS. Should we decide?
I want you to now, we understand that one, but I want, what should they do for the oil and gas sector?
Okay, yeah. You see, should we move most of this revenue collection to the FIRS? It means FIRS will require capacity expansion.
Yeah, that's
because it's an area that possibly they don't have the expertise to handle. So there will be a serious and quick requirement to upgrade their capacity. So you're now
saying the same thing should be to the oil sector?
Yes, the same thing could happen to the oil sector for the possibility of achieving transparency and prudence in the collection process. However, the same capacity would be required. So meaning that FIRS would need to have capacity for the oil and gas industry, capacity for maritime revenue collection, capacity for others. But however, you remember before now there wasn't TSA, Treasury Single Account. And we saw what ensued in the maritime sector, where one of the organization that was supposed to be involved in supporting the government operations was responsible for collection of revenue. And government later have issues with them because they couldn't want to relinquish that responsibility, you know, just like that. But they had to because they realized that a new dawn has come, a new government has come. Again, the beauty of democracy. So the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also could bring some new dawn into how some of these revenue collections are further done. So it will increase the transparency and the prudence in the collection. However, on the purchasing power, you see, currently Nigeria is faced with two challenges on issue of subsidy. You see, the subsidy is unhealthy for an economy that wants to grow. So it must go. And it is gone with the help and the courage of the current commander-in-chief. So right now, we now have the monetary aspect. Right? The monetary aspect is how do this foreign exchange, because remember we import this crude oil. So, and should the dollar continue to grow up, not against our own naira, heading downward south, the meaning of that is that by the time a new purchase of crude of PMS is made, you are likely going to buy PMS higher at the pump station than you are even buying it now. So now you can see that is a macroeconomics that is not within the internal control, except if government decide to sort of regulate the dollar, which they don't want to. The government don't want to, but a degree of regulation would have to come in here in order to stop the arbitrage and the rate at which the naira is losing its value on the global stage.
So on a final note now, what should government do, you know, in the immediate to save Nigerians from the difficulty they are going through? This should be in less than 1 minute.
Any of the refinery that have the possibility of being fixed within the shortest possible time,
they should do that.
Let's do that. Let's see how the Dangote refinery can quickly come on stream. Let's do that. Then when the Dangote refinery comes on stream, any of the refinery that is available quickly is on stream. There are various options that the government can have on the table that can drastically bring down the cost.
Mention just one before we round up.
Yes.
Is it
the crude oil is owned by the Nigerian government.
Okay, fine.
So it's a tool number one that could be used.
It can give any of the refineries to say that, okay, we are giving you maybe at a discount so that the end product will come out.
The impact will now be translated on the common man.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mubarak Ibrahim Mahmoud, an expert in maritime, port, oil and gas exploration. We thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We sincerely hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics Live, airing every weekday, and also our special package on Friday, during which we open our telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Once again, we thank you for watching. I'm Hamza Idris.